Welcome to the PointProx video series. Each episode will cover a specific part of the practice of project management in a short format. Most of the videos will focus on how to use automation and productivity tools for software implementation or development efforts. However, the techniques and processes reviewed can be applied to other types of projects as well. For this episode, we will be reviewing Microsoft Project's task types and how you can use the feature to make managing scheduling calculations easier. Task types control how Project will calculate the scheduling formula when changes are made to the elements of a task that impact the formula. By determining the task type correctly, you can ensure that changes will be reflected in the schedule in the way you expect. This episode will be more concept and information heavy than most other PointProx video series episodes. Given the amount of information to be covered, you will find the example project and presentation documents to be very important to getting the most benefit from the video. You can download them from the PointProx website. As we know, handling change is a constant on any project management effort. No matter how carefully you plan, no matter how good your crystal ball, and no matter how much experience you have, change is inevitable. Project requirements are modified. Risks convert to issues. Business priorities are refined, and so on. We have to, as project managers, be able to assess the impact of these changes on the project. The subject of this episode discusses a critical feature to managing how project responds when changes are applied to a schedule. This feature is task types. If you learn how task types work, and how to correctly identify which task type a task should be assigned to, your scheduling work will be significantly easier and more accurate. So what are task types and what do they do for us? There are three types of task types: fixed work, fixed units, and fixed duration. Essentially, what fixed means is that although you may change any element of the scheduling formula for a task, Project will not change the element that is fixed by the task type. To help with our understanding, let's take a look at an example. If we have a task that has a duration of 10 days with one full-time resource assigned, the work is then 80 hours. Simple enough. If the task is set up with fixed work as its task type, and we change the units by adding another resource, then Project will change the duration to 5 days. That is, work is fixed, we change the units, and therefore Project recalculates the duration accordingly. So which task type should be used and when? Let's have a look at some common heuristics concerning this question. Fixed work will be best used where the task is work-driven. For example, a module in a software project is estimated to take 160 hours of work to code. This means it will take one developer 4 weeks to complete the task. Theoretically, if 2 developers were assigned to the task, it could be completed in 2 weeks. The fixed work task type is the most common for software implementation or development projects. Fixed duration will be best for tasks that take a specific amount of time no matter how many resources are assigned. Examples might be driving to the company warehouse, which takes the same amount of time no matter how many staff are in the car. A classic example would be project meetings, whose length are essentially not affected by the number of attendees. Fixed duration is the second most commonly used task type. The fixed units task type is the Microsoft Project default. The differences between fixed units and fixed work can be quite subtle. We have found that the fixed units task type is rarely used for software implementation or development projects, and we recommend changing the default for your setup to fixed work. See the episode Creating a New Project Schedule from the PointProx video series for more information on setting up and changing defaults. Remember that on the first assignment of resources to a task, work is calculated using the base formula of work equals duration times assignment units. When tasks are changed, then the task types and effort-driven flag will come into play. To help you to understand what Project will do depending upon the task type, we have prepared this table. We have 5 different scenarios and have calculated how Project will react for each one. There are 4 base changes plus a 5th, which is a first calculation situation. Note that if a task is set to fixed work, then it uses effort-driven scheduling by definition. Project does not support setting a task to fixed work and duration-driven, as it doesn't make any sense. Hence, you will see the column for fixed work in the duration-driven section is set to Not Applicable. The table is in the presentation document available for this episode on the PointProx website. It is helpful to have it handy until it becomes second nature to you how Project will calculate the scheduling formula in different situations. So it is clear how we arrived at these conclusions. It may be helpful to quickly see how each of the 5 scenarios were exercised. We have prepared a schedule document to determine what happens for each combination of task type and event-driven flag. The schedule has been set up as follows. We've added the task type, effort-driven flag, and work fields as columns on the Gantt chart, and changed the resource names column to resource initials. We've added a task for each of the 25 possible combinations and set the task types and effort-driven flag values accordingly. Each task has 80 hours of work for a 10-day duration, and most with one 40-hour per week resource assigned at 100% units. We've split the display to show the resource usage sheet in the split. We've added assignment units and peak units on the resource usage display so it is easy to see what is happening. Finally, we've added a bunch of generic resources. Here is the completed schedule document where all of the options have been exercised. This document is available on the PointProx website. As we saw earlier, the effects of the task types and effort-driven flag are summarized on the table slide from the presentation file, which is also available on the PointProx website. So let's do some real-world examples to drive these ideas home. We'll focus on 1 fixed work and then 2 fixed duration tasks, one with effort-driven on and one off. These situations will likely be the ones you will use in practice most frequently. We have a schedule set up with 3 tasks and a single resource assigned to each at 100%. The display is the same as in the previous schedule, including showing the resource usage view in the lower part of the screen so we can see the details for the tasks as we edit them. Our first example will be a task to develop the code for a data import module. We expect it will take 120 hours of effort to complete the module, which is 15 days for a single developer. We have set the task up as fixed work because the task is estimated to take a specific amount of work, and theoretically, adding additional staff will reduce the calendar time it will take to complete it. It turns out that we have an additional developer available to help with the module. So let's add them using the Resources tab of the Task Information dialog. Project has reduced the duration of the task, which is exactly what we would have expected. Looking at the resource usage split, we see that Project has assigned both resources at 100% peak units for 60 hours, which will allow the task to be completed in 7.5 days. For our next example, our company has purchased licenses for a powerful export, transform, and load tool. We will need to send a staff member to a training class to learn how to use it. We'll use the Task Information dialog, Advanced tab, to set the task type. We'll set it to a fixed duration task type because the task will run for a specific amount of time on the calendar no matter how many staff attend the class. We'll turn the effort-driven flag off as adding resources multiplies work and therefore the task is not effort-driven. The class runs for 7 days at 8 hours a day, so the work is calculated at 56 hours. On reflection, we determined that it would be a good idea to have another staff member trained in how to use the ETL tool, so we'll add them by entering their initials onto the Resource Initials cell. Project has recalculated the work and kept the duration fixed. Looking at the resource usage view, we see that both resources are set to peak units of 100%. This makes perfect sense as both staff members will be in the class at the same time, so work is doubled to 112 hours. For our last example, we want to have a help desk telephone monitored during regular business hours for the first 3 weeks after the launch of a new version of our internal accounting software. This is a single-person job, as we have found from experience that we only need one phone line to cover the expected volume. So we have 120 hours of work calculated for the task for our single resource. As the line will be monitored for 15 days, the task is obviously fixed duration. A team member informs us that the staff assigned to monitor the help desk was really only effective for 4 hours at a time. As such, we want to have another resource share the tasks so we can maintain the quality of the service. Only one resource can work on the task at a time, so adding more resources will not add more work. Hence, this is an effort-driven task. Adding the second staff to the task, Project calculates the peak units at 50% for each resource. This is certainly what we wanted, but why? Well, duration is fixed, so Project will honor the task types constraint, and duration stays at 3 weeks. Since we have set the task to be effort-driven, adding resources does not add work. Hence, the peak units is set to 50%, meaning that 2 staff will share the task at 4 hours each per day. So that wraps up our exploration of Project's scheduling formula. In this episode, we introduced task types. These are fixed work, fixed duration, and fixed units. The rule is that a user can change any of the 3 variables for a task, but Project will not change the variable that is fixed by the task type. We reviewed the task types table and how we calculated the conclusions encapsulated therein. Make sure that you get a copy of the table from the PointProx website. It is very useful to have handy until you become completely familiar with how task types works in practice. And finally, we used examples to exercise the 3 most common settings of task types and the effort-driven flag for software development and implementation projects. On our next episode in the PointProx video series, we will be exploring setting up relations between tasks. This will entail setting up dependencies, understanding constraint types and dates, defining predecessor types, and managing leads and lags. You can find the episode on the PointProx website or on YouTube. Thanks for taking time to watch our video. PointProx is a technical project management, business analysis, and software development practice. We have a range of clients from startups to Global 2000 corporations. We use software development and implementation methodologies that provide a high-quality product in reasonable timeframes and with smart requirements management. PointProx employs an approach to project management based on the industry-standard Project Management Institute's established practices. Contact us to discuss how we can help you on your next project. If you would like to review more episodes in the PointProx video series, or review information concerning PointProx in general, please visit our website at pointprox.com. See you next time.